It is Monday, June 18th. Fighting irresponsible media. DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen railing against the recent reporting on immigration, the border battle that's taking shape in Washington today.
In just hours from now, the DOJ watchdog and the head of the FBI will likely face angry lawmakers in what could be a heated Senate hearing. And now, anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok says he is ready to break his silence.
And a soldier returns home, surprising his girlfriend at a baseball game. But that's not the only surprise he had planned. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
All right, 5:01 here on the East Coast. Very early in the morning. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be a hot one, though,
it's going to be like
from what I heard.
High 90s here, I think.
We're ready for it. We're in the AC, though. We're going to be okay. Good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Monday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thanks so much for spending your day with us.
And a live look right now, Capitol Hill, where the DOJ Inspector General and the FBI Director will likely be grilled over the Clinton email probe later today.
And now, anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok says he's ready to testify, too. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. as House lawmakers demand more documents on the probe. What's the latest, Griff?
Good morning, guys. Fallout is intensifying, and Inspector General will defend his findings as Director Wray is expected to defend the Bureau's credibility when they appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee this afternoon, as President Trump applies pressure on that FBI agent who claimed he'd, quote, stop him from taking office. The president tweeting, highest level of bias I've ever witnessed in any law enforcement officer, Trey Gowdy on the FBI's own Peter Strzok. Also remember that they all worked for slippery James Comey, and that Comey is best friends with Robert Mueller. A really sick deal, isn't it? And Strzok is indicating that he's willing to appear. His attorney, Eitan Goldman, issuing this statement. Strzok thinks that his position, character, and actions have all been misrepresented and caricatured, and he wants an opportunity to remedy that. But it's not a done deal. As House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte says he'll subpoena Strzok if he won't come voluntarily, as the messages concern even Democrats like Adam Schiff.
Certainly these text messages are very troubling. The fact they were on work email, the fact that they were commingled with emails discussing business, all that's problematic.
And lawmakers are still waiting for more documents to be turned over, as House Oversight Chairman Trey Gowdy says he's losing patience.
There's going to be action on the floor of the House this week if the FBI and DOJ do not comply with our subpoena request. So we're going to get compliance, or the House of Representatives is going to use its full arsenal of constitutional weapons to gain compliance.
So here's where it stands. Wray and Horowitz appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee today. Tomorrow, a joint House committee will see if Peter Strzok shows up. Rob, Jillian?
All right, yes, we will. Thank you very much, Griff. President Trump's attorney is now calling for another Inspector General report on the lead up to Robert Mueller's appointment.
Rudy Giuliani says the same investigators blasted for unethical behavior during the Clinton investigation are now tainting the Mueller probe.
I'm saying the Justice Department should do it. And I'm not really saying the special counsel. I'm saying what led up to the special counsel. I don't think Mueller and his people need to be investigated unless something comes out of that. Remember, you got a bunch of odd things that led to the appointment of Bob, which is first we have this Russian probe that looks like it was rooted in, they're turning around the people that were investigating Trump, investigating Hillary, who had, I think, completely screwed it up, according to the Horowitz report. Second, that then turns into the Russian probe, which they make a priority. I think the independent, the Inspector General is begging to investigate it, including it's being premised on Comey's illegally leaked memo.
The president's counsel, Giuliani, honed in on the newly released text message from Peter Strzok, who told his lover, Lisa Page, that they would keep President Trump out of the White House. However, the Inspector General found no evidence that their political bias impacted their actions.
And we're also learning Peter Strzok's boss, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, used Lisa Page to have a direct hand in the Clinton email probe. According to the IG report, Page was used in bypass-to-bypass chain of command, so McCabe's decisions could not be filtered by management. McCabe says he kept Page in the role despite upsetting officials. He says Page brought issues to his attention that others did not.
All right, now to a Fox News alert. At least 3 people are dead and hundreds more injured after a powerful earthquake rocks Japan. The 6.1 magnitude quake rattling the city of Osaka. It burst water mains, knocked down walls. It even started a number of fires. Among the victims, a 9-year-old girl who died when a wall crumbled on top of her. It was the strongest registered quake in that city's recorded history. An attempted carjacker stopped by a good guy with a gun. A bystander shooting and killing the suspect in a Walmart parking lot after he shot at least one person and tried to steal 2 cars. That victim now hospitalized in critical condition. The bystander who shot and killed the gunman, the criminal, is described by police as a good Samaritan.
We now know the gunman accused of opening fire at an arts festival was just released from prison.
Hey, she hit? You all right? Anybody hit? Anybody hit over here?
According to police, Tahaji Wells was out on parole for homicide charges when he shot several people in New Jersey. He was killed by police. Another man, Amir Armstrong, was arrested on weapons charges. Police say the shooting was gang-related. Today, the president will meet with key senators about border security as the House prepares to vote on 2 immigration bills this week. Tensions now rising over children being taken away from their parents. But the head of Homeland Security says, quote, "We do not have a policy of separating families at the border, period." Steve Rappaport has the latest.
Members of Congress conduct their own immigration investigation. Lawmakers visiting a Texas facility Sunday, housing hundreds of immigrants detained at the border. Some of the children are among the 2,000 kids who were separated from their parents while trying to cross over. It's part of the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy announced back in April, but Democratic lawmakers say breaking up families is cruel and unnecessary.
The zero-tolerance policy means zero humanity, and it makes 0 sense.
The administration argues it's trying to deter future illegal border crossings, adding the separation of families is a result of existing law.
Nobody likes seeing babies ripped from their mother's arms, from their mother's wombs, frankly. But we have to make sure that DHS's laws are understood.
Democrats counter what the administration is doing is not law, it's policy.
The president could change this policy today. He could change it right now.
Border Patrol itself is even weighing in, pointing out the separations are consistent with how the U.S. handles plenty of unrelated cases.
That is no different from a United States citizen parent that is going through a judicial process, prosecuted for violating the law, and separated from his or her children.
Border Patrol notes the kids are getting cared for, provided with hot meals and medical services. The U.S. House is expected to vote on a pair of immigration packages this week. They'll include border funding and the restructuring of several visa programs. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo making his first public appearance since returning from South Korea and China today. Pompeo will speak at the Detroit Economic Club about America's economic revival. That's at Ford Field this afternoon. He returned to the States last week after discussing the North Korea summit in Singapore with neighbors of the North Korean regime.
The U.S. and South Korea expected to announce the end of joint military drills next week. South Korean media reports it will not affect routine training. They will restart the drills if North Korea breaks its promise of denuclearization. President Trump pledged to end so-called war games after his summit with Kim Jong-un.
All right, it's a U.S. Open repeat for Brooks Koepka.
The world's 9th-ranked golfer becoming the first back-to-back Open champ in 29 years. Koepka finishing 1 over par in the tournament in New York.
Tough course, 1 over, 1 at all. The last man to accomplish this feat of back-to-back was Curtis Strange, seen interviewing Koepka for Fox after this big win. That is cool. And talk about Strange, like Koepka, Curtis Strange repeated at the Open on a course here in New York. To top it off, the wins marked both of their second ever major victories. So they got 2 in a row. I was out there on Friday. It's a very, very tricky golf course out there in Southampton. It doesn't look easy. Yeah. A lot of wind, and those greens are like ice. A lot of people were complaining that they said it was ridiculous what the USGA and the PGA did this year. They said it was outrageous, the conditions of the course.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of players were angry. Yeah.
All right, well, it is 10 minutes after the hour. The left making border separation their new rallying cry. But with so much focus on the border, what about parents who lost their kids at the hands of illegals? Sabine Durden says her son would still be alive if our lawmakers would enforce the safety and security of our citizens. She joins us live next.
And the United States isn't the only country dealing with an open border crisis. The European migrant problem that could cost German Chancellor Angela Merkel her job.
And the out-of-control truck that went airborne over a busy highway. You've got to see this. Stay right there.
President Trump meeting with Republican senators today in a major push to fund the border wall. This comes as the left makes border separation their new rallying cry.
But with so much focus on the border, what about the parents who have lost children at the hands of illegal immigrants? Sabina Durden's son Dominic was killed by an illegal immigrant in 2012, and she joins us live now. Thank you for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. For those who don't know, would you mind telling us what happened to your son?
Dominic was 30 years old, my only child, and he worked at the 911 dispatch center in Riverside, California, and he was on his way to work at 5:45 in the morning on July 12, 2012, when an illegal alien criminal, 2 felonies, 2 DUIs, 1 deportation, took his unregistered and uninsured truck and turned it in front of my son and hit him so hard that it killed him instantly.
Sabina, we're talking about, in this instance here, there seems to be a lot of concern from a group of Democrats regarding the treatment of people coming into the country illegally once they get here, and this separation policy. What do you think they're concerned? Do you think that they're overly concerned about these people?
They're faking it. And I'm highly offended because all Americans and all legal immigrants that would commit a crime will be separated from their children temporarily, while there are thousands of Americans that have been permanently, forever separated. I have my son's ashes right behind me. That's what I have left.
President Trump sent out a tweet on Friday, and it reads, quote, "The Democrats are forcing the breakup of families at the border with their horrible and cruel legislative agenda. Any immigration bill must have full funding for the wall, end catch and release, visa lottery and chain, and go to merit-based immigration. Go for it. Win." Do you agree with what the president is trying to accomplish?
I agree, and I hope he takes amnesty off the table and he adds the birthright, ending the birthright citizenship. It has to stop all the magnets that bring these people here and put children in danger. And that's where the Democrats need to put their effort in. They need to tell these people, don't come. Don't bring kids. Don't let your kids be used by cartels. And don't break the law, and you won't be separated from your child.
Well, the president has said, the president's wife has said, his daughter has said, many people have said, even Kellyanne Conway said that they don't like the idea of separating these kids at the border. And we'll put up some information now. Almost 2,000 children have been separated from their parents after they illegally crossed to come into the country at this time. The president says this is a negotiating tactic, that he needed to do this to force Democrats to come to the table and do something about illegal immigration in this country. There are even Democrats, moderate Democrats, that say we do have to fix this problem. We can't have illegal immigrants pouring into this country. Do you think that this is just an agenda item of a small group of far-left activists within the Democratic Party?
I believe so, and they're using this to grandstand. And I wish they would take their time and worry about 1.6 million homeless children and our veterans out on the street, because they would love to be in one of those detention centers for just a week. That would be like a vacation for them. They're using this for their future voters. They are using this like a red bouncing ball to distract from other things. And they need to get behind American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Stina Jordan, thank you for your time, and we are sorry for your loss. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It is 18 minutes after the hour. Take a look at this. Democrats pushing their way into an immigration center.
What we're doing as a nation is inflicting enormous harm on these kids and on the parents.
This is a choice that the Trump administration has made. It is inhumane.
The group of angry liberal lawmakers who think they're above the law.
And Superman hanging up his cape for a badge. Actor Dean Cain joining the real heroes that are fighting crime, police officers. What inspired him to help our men and women in blue.
Good morning to you and welcome back. At least 5 illegal immigrants are killed trying to outrun Border Patrol agents. 12 people ejected from an SUV in a rollover crash near the Texas-Mexico border. The chase reaching speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. Officials demanding tighter border security following the crash.
Every day, my deputies are getting into pursuits. I think we need more boots on the ground. We need more patrol. I think we need a wall, in my opinion.
The driver, a U.S. citizen, is under arrest.
Democratic lawmakers show up unannounced and demand to be let into an immigration detention center.
Get the supervisor. Congress, we're entitled to do. We're duly elected members of Congress. We're entitled to come in and visit this prison.
Well, they pulled it off this time. All the lawmakers were granted access to this facility in the state of New Jersey. Several speaking out about the practice of separating illegal immigrant border crossers at the border.
This administration is behaving like a bunch of thugs and gangsters. That we will not stand for, and the American people should not stand for.
Well, the White House says it will not unilaterally end the practice of separating illegal families, and they blame Democrats for refusing to negotiate new immigration laws.
A Fox Business alert and an urgent recall on your favorite cereal this morning.
That's not my favorite cereal.
Well, actually, that was one of mine when I was a kid.
Who told you that? Honey Smatter even had that one yet.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business is here with actually a pretty serious story. This has gotten a lot of people sick, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The FDA is expanding its recall and now advising people not to eat Honey Smack cereal at all, regardless of the use by or sell by date. Also, the box size. Previously, they had said if it was a certain size or if it had a certain date, then you could still eat it. Now they're saying just don't eat it at all because of the potential to cause salmonella. Now, 73 people across 31 states have gotten sick because of this. 24 people have been hospitalized. Thankfully, there have been no deaths reported because of this. The FDA says that they have investigated the facility where this cereal is manufactured, but just get rid of it. Don't eat it.
Bummer.
Yeah.
I was always a Raisin Bran guy. Does that make me boring? I love Raisin Bran. What do you like? What's the big one?
I liked Corn Pops or Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms.
Fruity Pebbles.
You guys 10 years old?
Yes. Well, we were 10 years old when we ate those, yes.
I guess so. All right, Taco Bell has a new drink, huh?
Yes, this is just in time for the summer. It's a new watermelon freeze. Not only does it taste like watermelon, but as you can see, it looks like it too. It is bright pink and it has black candy-like seeds, like watermelon seeds. It's got a green straw for the watermelon rind, but this drink does come with a warning. Taco Bell says not advisable for kids under the age of 4 because of a choking hazard.
Interesting stuff. All right. Thanks, Tracy.
All right.
Thank you.
25 minutes after the hour, gearing up for fireworks on Capitol Hill. Just hours from now, the DOJ watchdog and the head of the FBI will face possibly some very angry lawmakers in a heated Senate hearing. And former U.S. Congressman Jason Chaffetz has been demanding answers about this for a while now. He's going to tell us all about what he thinks is going to happen today. Good morning to you.
Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
Added to the tab, the big bucks you'll be forking over for Obama's new presidential library. Stay right there. Good morning and welcome back. DOJ watchdog Michael Horowitz and FBI Director Christopher Wray are set for a showdown over the IG's scathing report on the Hillary Clinton email probe.
So what can we expect today? Here now to weigh in is former House Oversight Committee Chairman and Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. So we're going to get Horowitz. We're going to hear from him today. And there's been a lot of criticism of some of the findings of this report, right?
Oh, no, look, hey, this is 562 pages of, descriptions of animus towards the approach that they took. Look, Michael Horowitz has gotten the closest to the truth. He's the one that extracted all of these text messages and emails. Yeah. But there's still a lot to learn. When you have an IG actually answer questions, talk about what steps to go next, then you're going to illuminate a lot of things. And the FBI director being there is going to take a lot of criticism. Mm-hmm. Why do these people still have security clearances? When did they actually know that these things were a problem? And why won't they turn over documents that Devin Nunes, Trey Gowdy, John Radcliffe, and the rest are looking for? Why won't they make those same documents that they made available to the IG? Why won't they also show them to Congress?
Well, in some of those documents, we saw a number of new things, new text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And there's this one dated August 8th, 2016, where Lisa Page says, quote, "Trump's not ever going to become president, right? Right?" And Peter Strzok says, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Peter Strzok also says, reportedly, that he's ready to testify. That's kind of fascinating. What would you expect to hear from him?
Well, members of Congress have been trying to get at him for months and months and months. I think he knows that at this point that there have been a lot of determinations and a lot of illumination as to what he was saying behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. He may just argue that, hey, it's just bravado. I was just trying to show off to my, this girlfriend that I had. But it's not just one text. Yeah. There are strings of texts out there. Remember, this person's in charge of counterintelligence, and he's out there texting these types of things.
It's almost like, how does he expect to defend himself?
Well,
we've seen it all.
It would be interesting to see if he actually follows up on that, because I know Congress will want to bring him in for a classified briefing, but also to bring him out before the United States of America and have this public hearing. But he's not the only one. There are other names out there that were in the Inspector General report. The other thing that I think will come out today is a senator will ask him to unmask the names of the FBI agents and attorneys that are in the report, but we don't know who they are yet.
And Peter Strzok's not even asking for immunity, which is interesting, too. He seems pretty confident going into this that he can defend himself.
Bring it on.
And yeah, let's go back. I mean, there's one part of this that a lot of people can't wrap their minds around, and that is you've got Christopher Wray, you've got Rod Rosenstein, you even have Jeff Sessions, one of the president's earliest and biggest supporters, still fiercely standing behind the FBI, saying that there was no bias, that this is being blown out of proportion for political reasons. That's tough to get around if you're the president, isn't it? I mean, Sessions is his guy.
Look, I think the president wants to see this stuff out there, too, but he's been very hands-off, the president has. The other fight that's happening and will play out by Wednesday of this week is you have Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy insisting that if they don't turn over the documents, that they're going to have to hold him probably in contempt, and if not, take some other constitutional remedies, is the phrase that they use, in order to compel this testimony to come out. And they're going to demand that these people be prosecuted. We're talking about Rosenstein and Sessions. Why won't they turn these documents over?
And Rob, you just mentioned a minute ago Christopher Wray defending the FBI. Last week we heard him extremely, defensive of the FBI, saying, look, there are all of these thousands of agents out there who are doing their jobs on a daily basis. Yes, they are fair, but still, when you have what's been going on at the top, that's kind of inexcusable in a lot of people's opinion. You have him saying that they're going to be doing new training at the top. What do you expect to hear from him today? Do you expect him to come out a little bit tougher than he was last week?
I don't think the senators are going to let him sit back and just say, hey, there's going to be new training, because it's not the rank and file that have been to the problem.
Right.
You have the senior most echelon who don't allow Congress to do their oversight jobs and responsibilities. Remember that text you put up? Oh, it's not going to become president, right? That was originally redacted. Well, there's no classified intelligence there. There's nothing of national security. It was terribly embarrassing. It illuminated the fundamental problem about the bias and the animus that was injected into this. And if you combine that with the second phase, now remember, Horowitz did an investigation of the Clinton email probe, but now he's also doing an investigation into the potential FISA abuse, going to a court and trying to get a warrant to be able to surveil somebody. And there's a lot of questions about about that. And the Russia probe. Those same cast of characters that showed their animus in the Clinton email probe, there was no serious investigation in Hillary Clinton's email.
Got to get to topic two. We do have a second topic here. Separation of families at the border. There's been a lot of hoopla around this. There's a lot of really jarring images of kids being taken away from their parents. The administration coming back saying that a lot of what you're seeing has been fake news. There's been a lot of people spreading the fact that this is happening to anybody coming across the border, even asylum seekers. We learn now that's not the case. It's only for illegal crossers. If you're coming here the right way, seeking asylum, you don't get separated from your family. What do you think of all this?
Well, nobody wants to see kids separated from families. I mean, that's horrific. But they act as if this is something new that just Donald Trump thrust into the equation. That is absolutely not true. First of all, if you want to claim asylum...
Isn't this a policy that just started in April?
No, look, if you want to claim asylum, first of all, you can go to the United States Embassy in your country of origin.
Sure.
And if you're coming to the United States, listen to what the Homeland Security Secretary is saying, and that is go to a port of entry and claim asylum.
Right.
It's the people that are going in between that are trying to cross the border. And you know what?
And that's where the policy comes in of separation, right?
But do it the right way.
Right.
But don't pretend that every one of these kids is matched up with mom or dad. That is not the case. You have way too many people that are used as drug mules and others that are being pushed and thrust across the border. You have 14, 15-year-old kids that are exploited to make these drug runs. So don't, again, you got to take every case individually. But yeah, if you got a little 4 or 5-year-old kid, of course you want it to be as close proximity to the mom as you possibly can. But there is an awful lot of human trafficking that's also going down on that border. Don't be naive to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Angela Merkel's political career now hanging in the balance over migration in Europe. The German Chancellor's interior minister giving her 2 weeks to end the open border policy and turn away refugees that are already seeking asylum elsewhere. If Merkel cannot get European Union support for this, the minister says he'll carry out the orders himself. It's a messy situation in Europe right now. This move could collapse Angela Merkel's government. Attorney General Jeff Sessions speaking at the National Sheriff Association's annual conference today. He's expected to address key law enforcement issues and immigration. Sessions will be joined by Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen and House Majority Whip Steve Scalise at the event in New Orleans.
In Washington, President Trump will outline his plan for winning the next frontier. The president delivering the keynote address at the National Space Council meeting, which is intended to boost momentum for space exploration in the public and private sectors. In December, the president signed an order directing NASA to send humans back to the moon.
All right, heavy rain triggering massive flash floods, a lot of water in the Midwest.
Roads completely washed out in Houghton, Michigan, where people were told to shelter in place.
And in Birmingham, Alabama, streets, look at this, turning into rivers. Wow.
Today, there's dangerous heat on tap for millions of Americans. Janice Dean is tracking it all. What are we in store for, Janice?
Do you like it hot? Because it's happening. At least for today and tomorrow, and then we'll break the heat a little bit across the Northeast. But look at the temperatures today. Well into the 90s for New York and D.C. and Chicago and St. Louis. So we're going to hang on to the heat across the Midwest, but for the Northeast, it's fairly short-lived and then back to more seasonal temperatures. There are your heat advisories again for millions, so make sure that you're indoors and you're taking care of your kids and your pets and bring them into the air conditioning today and hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Again, lots of moisture on the screen here across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and Texas. We're going to be dealing with the potential for heavy rain across portions of the Gulf Coast states. There's your severe threat today from the Midwest through the Great Lakes, the interior Northeast, as well as New England. We could see some large hail, could see some damaging winds, isolated tornadoes, and then we're going to be watching tropical moisture moving into Texas, parts of Louisiana as well over the next couple of days. Don't think it will be a named storm or a depression, but it is going to bring awful lot of moisture. So there's your forecast today across the northern Rockies. We could see some scattered showers and thunderstorms across the Great Lakes, and then we're looking at the potential for more heavy rain across the Gulf Coast, and it will be hot today in New York City.
Yes, it will.
Be prepared.
Thank you, Janice.
You got it.
It is 38 minutes after the hour. Actor Robert De Niro has made it very clear that he does not support the president.
Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right. How one voter is firing back at liberal Hollywood with a message of his own.
And saying she's firing back at fake news, Kirstjen Nielsen railing against some of the recent reporting on U.S. border policy. And Carly Shimkus is here with how the head of Homeland Security is trying to set the record straight this morning. Hi, Carly.
Quote, fighting irresponsible media. DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen railing against the recent immigration reporting. She's saying there's no policy separating families.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115, is here now with how she's firing back. A confusing kind of story, yeah, with everything going on.
Yeah, so she is essentially pushing back on criticism surrounding the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. Let's get to what she has to say. She tweeted, this misreporting by members, press, and advocacy groups must stop. It is irresponsible and unproductive. She goes on to say, we do not have a policy of separating families at the border. Period. For those seeking asylum at ports of entry, we have continued the policy from previous administrations and will only separate if the children is in danger, there is no custodial relationship between family members, or if the adult has broken a law. So she's trying to set the record straight here. And some folks on social media agree with her. Glenn says if they didn't break the law, they wouldn't get arrested. If they tried to enter the correct way and go through the proper processions, they wouldn't have this issue. John also says, stay tough, Secretary Nielsen. And Steve also says, so somehow this is our fault. If people did not try to enter the country illegally, we would not have the conversation. Still, there is a whole lot of outrage over this policy, some calling it cruel and unnecessary, including former First Lady Laura Bush, who wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post criticizing it.
So I guess it seems like what she's saying is they're just following a policy that was in place, that the Trump administration does not have its own new policy.
They've expanded it, made it zero tolerance, and if you go to the proper ports of entry, seek asylum, you're not going to get separated from your family. That's the message. Yeah.
All right, Dean Cain is going to become a police officer?
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't just play a superhero on TV. He will be sworn in as a reserve officer at the St. Anthony's Police Department in Idaho. So he tweeted about it, saying, it's in a reserve capacity, but I love helping kids and having huge respect and appreciation for our law enforcement officers. A lot of folks on social media talking about this. Lana says it's in a reserve capacity, but she also says, congratulations, these kids are truly blessed to have such a wonderful mentor on the task force. I think we have another Twitter user named Amy coming in saying, man, if he pulled me over, I'd write my own ticket and ask him to sign it. That would be interesting, and hey, it might happen. That could be a possibility in the future.
He's a friend of the show. Awesome guy. Always such a pleasure and so fun.
Kind of reminds me of what Shaquille O'Neal did, because he works very closely with the police in Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Carly, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ivanka Trump heading to California today with House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
Does the move foreshadow the liberal state holding the key to congressional control in 2018? That debate is coming your way next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Doocy. Coming up on Fox and Friends in about 11 and a half minutes, we're going to have among our guests Hogan Gidley, the White House Deputy Press Secretary. We're going to be talking about the immigration showdown in D.C. It's this week. Also, Alan Dershowitz, apparently one of the lovebirds, Peter Strzok, is willing to testify before Congress. He does not want immunity. He will not have to be subpoenaed. The question is, could he speak as early as tomorrow? Also, Jonathan Turley, the law professor, talks about how the DOJ's Inspector General report is out, and the Inspector General and the FBI Director are going to sit down before the Senate Judiciary Committee later today. And you know what? There could be some fireworks. And so we got Dan Bongino. He's going to say that Trey Gowdy is going to was quoted yesterday as saying that the Republicans will hit the FBI and the DOJ with the, quote, full arsenal of constitutional weapons at their disposal unless they start coughing up those documents that they've been looking for. So anyway, we got a busy 3 hours. Kicks off just about 10 minutes. Rob, right here on the channel, everybody, trust for their morning news.
That's right, Steve. What'd you get for Father's Day? Any big present?
No, my son gave me a box of John Roberts business cards. I've been circulating with those throughout the weekend.
That's a heck of a gift, Steve.
I know.
Lovely family. They must love you very much.
Oh, they do. Thank you for asking, Rob.
Thank you so much. All right, a President Trump supporter disrupting Robert De Niro's Broadway play with a Keep America Great flag. This is what happened during the curtain call of A Bronx Tale. Audience members say the man waved the flag toward the crowd before he was escorted out of the theater. De Niro is the show's director. He also starred in that film many years ago. It was a good one. Just last week, De Niro was criticized for his profane remarks aimed at the president at the Tony Awards. Taxpayers being forced to pay up to fund former President Obama's presidential library. The state of Illinois approving nearly $200 million of taxpayer funds for infrastructure projects near the News Center in Chicago. The project anticipated to cost more than $500 million in total. It cost $250 million to build the George W. Bush Presidential Center in Dallas, Texas. The JFK library reportedly cost $20.8 million. Jillian.
Protect the House. Ivanka Trump set to headline multiple fundraisers for Republicans in California today. This signaling the administration's priority to help Republicans retain their seats in the left-leaning state. So is California the key to congressional control come November? Here now to debate it is Democratic strategist Joel Payne and the conservative millennial Allie Beth Stuckey. Thank you for joining us this morning. Joel, I'll start with you. What do you think it means that Ivanka Trump is going out there to California?
I'm not sure. It's actually a very good question. I don't think of Ivanka Trump as much of a person that's going to whip up the conservative base out there on the campaign trail, but obviously they feel like that's what's going to help push them over the edge. I will say this, what I would do if I was Republicans was less worry about who's going to headline fundraisers and try to do things like coming up with a policy that most Californians might support. You look at the immigration policy, I can't imagine that's too popular out there in California, where you have such a diverse population and you've got an administration that's actually separating families at the border. So I'd focus on that as opposed to having Ivanka Trump headline fundraisers.
Well, we did just talk about that immigration policy a couple minutes ago, so we won't get into that here. Allie Beth, do you agree with what he had to say?
Well, I think it shows that the Republican Party is taking California seriously, despite the fact that the blue wave that California expected to have in the primaries is really nothing more than a ripple. We've been hearing for months how California is the path for victory for House Democrats, and that just doesn't look like it's going to be the case. However, I commend Kevin McCarthy, I commend the Republican Party for sending Ivanka Trump out there, taking it seriously, doing what they can to solidify the seats in the Fresno, Bakersfield area, and even possibly solidify the seats in Orange County. It's what we need to do.
Allie Beth, you mentioned the blue wave is now a ripple. Joel, do you agree or disagree with that?
Listen, November's a long time away, so anyone who could sit here and try to characterize what's going to happen then, I wouldn't quite do that. I've seen a lot of congressional races turn within the last 3 months, so I'm certainly going to be watching as anybody else would. But I would say this, Democrats have performed very well in special elections. Republicans are up against the wall to defend a very unpopular president, particularly in a place like California. Look at across the country in places like Pennsylvania as well. The president is really up against the wall, and Republicans, that's why you've seen a record number of Republicans retiring around the country, because they don't want to defend this president and his administration's policies.
Well, go ahead, Allie. Well, actually, the president has gotten more and more popular, especially as the economy is booming, and so that's one of the problems that the Democrats face. Are people who would maybe vote Democrat going to say, hey, the economy is doing pretty well, I'm doing pretty well, and particularly in California, where a budget was just approved to keep the gas tax so high, despite the fact that there's a surplus in the state. I think taxpayers are going to look at President Trump's policies and say, hey, we're doing pretty well. I'd rather go that direction than in the Jerry Brown direction.
Well, let's take a look at the Republicans and Democrats in the House. And right now, as it stands, there are 39 Democrats and 14 Republicans in the House. Allie Beth, 14, that's a pretty low number in comparison. What do Republicans need to do to flip some of those seats?
Yeah, I mean, they do have a difficult road ahead of them. I'm not going to say it's necessarily going to be easy to keep the House come November. What they do is they have to get better on messaging. We just heard Secretary Nielsen have to defend this so-called Trump policy of separating families when we just know that's not an accurate media portrayal. Republicans have to get out in front of these policies, make sure that they communicate that we are the ones that are pro-family, we are the ones that are pro-empowerment, pro-equality, even pro-immigrant, pro-legal. Exactly. We are the pro-family party, the pro-woman party, and Republicans, quite frankly, have to do a better job of communicating. Yes, absolutely. We are against tearing families apart at the border and against tearing babies apart in the blue. I don't think that you can say that.
Why does your president and why does this administration believe it's appropriate to tear families apart at the border?
This is a policy that's been around for a while, and
you by definition are not pro-family. If you support that policy, which you do,
file for asylum in a legal way.
Secretary Nielsen's lying, the president's lying. You do support this policy. This is the policy that you are enforcing.
Just because you're saying that we're lying doesn't mean that it's actually true. And I certainly don't support this policy.
Guys, we do have to go.
So thank you.
Just a couple minutes ago, we did have those tweets from Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen saying that there is no new Trump administration, new Trump administration policy on record, that they are enforcing the policy that was in place. So we will leave it there with what Kirstjen Nielsen had to say. Thank you both for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.